Hello everyone in the Ansarkari again. And yesterday we talked about the Union Council of Ministers and a little bit information about the duties and the responsibilities of the Prime Minister in the context of President of India. And today we are about to wind up this chapter. So we are going to see what are the left out things. We have covered this yesterday. Oaths and salaries हमने देख ली थी. Qualifications की हमने बात की. What should be the qualifications to be a minister? That he should be a member of either house, either Lok Sabha और राज्य सभा, और अगर दोनों के हाउस के मेंबर्स नहीं है तो भी he can become a minister provided he fulfills his membership within the 6 months period in either house. And article 75 clause 1b, ये 93rd amendment जो है उससे लाया गया, जिसमें बोला गया any member of parliament who has been disqualified on the ground of defection must not be appointed as a minister, जिससे हमने कल बात भी की थी. Then appointment of minister we have also talked, and here this flow chart is in itself is explaining what is the difference between these three kinds of ministers within the council of minister. So अगर हम एक सर्कल बनाएं और उस सर्कल को नाम दे काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर, तो सर्कल के अंदर जो आप कह सकते हैं थर्ड जोन होगा उसको आप बोल दीजिए डेप्यूटी मिनिस्टर्स, जो कैबिनेट के पार्ट नहीं होते हैं ना, वो कैबिनेट की मीटिंग्स को अटेंड करते हैं, बस उनका काम होता है कि वो असिस्ट करते हैं अपने ऊपर जो मिनिस्टर्स होते हैं उनको. फिर जो थर्ड के बाद जो सेकंड जोन आता है जिसको हम बफर जोन अगर बोलें, तो उसके अंदर आते हैं मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट्स, जिनको इंडिपेंडेंट चार्ज दिया जाता है मिनिस्ट्रीज का, और ये भी असिस्ट करते हैं कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर्स को. और जो कोर जोन है इस सर्कल का उसको बोला जाता है कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर्स, जो हमारे यहाँ 20 से 25 मेन मिनिस्ट्रीज होती हैं, उनके जो हेड होते हैं उनको कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर्स बोला जाता है. तो काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर के अंदर तीनों आते हैं, लेकिन मोस्ट इंपोर्टेंट जो डिसीजन होते हैं वो कैबिनेट लेती है, और कैबिनेट ही काउंसिल को चलाती है इन द प्रैक्टिकल सेंस. अगर हम एक चीज और बात करें तो वो है किचन कैबिनेट. किचन कैबिनेट, कैबिनेट के अंदर एक स्मॉल बॉडी, कैबिनेट के अंदर अगर 20 कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर, तो ये कैबिनेट के अंदर भी एक छोटी बॉडी होती है जिसमें खाली प्राइम मिनिस्टर और उनके कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट पोर्टफोलियो मिनिस्टर्स होते हैं, जैसे कि होम, डिफेंस, फॉरेन अफेयर्स, माइटी मिनिस्टर्स. ऐसा इस वजह से किया जाता है ताकि जो कैबिनेट है, अगर कैबिनेट के अंदर भी कुछ ऐसे मैटर्स होते हैं फॉर द नेशनल इंटरेस्ट जहां पर अगर ज्यादा लोग होंगे तो सेक्रेसी मेंटेन हो पाती है, डिस्कॉर्ड होने का चांस रहता है, यूनानिमस डिसीजन कैबिनेट ही नहीं ले पाते. तो इसी वजह से दिस इज द मोस्ट इन्फ्लुएंशियल बॉडी, दैट इज द किचन कैबिनेट. अगर हम बात करें इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, तो हर प्रधानमंत्री की हमारे इंडिया में कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर के अंदर एक किचन कैबिनेट हुई है. जब हम बात करते हैं जवाहरलाल नेहरू से लेकर के इंदिरा गांधी से, और इंदिरा गांधी से लेकर के मनमोहन सिंह तक, और मनमोहन सिंह से प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी. बट इफ अ क्वेश्चन अपीयर्स दैट is kitchen cabinet is a constitutional body, so the answer will be no. It is again an non-constitutional and extra constitutional body. Cabinet in itself is an extra constitutional body, but it is mentioned in the constitution in article 352, 42nd amendment act 1976. तो अगर हम 3 या 4 इसके फायदे देखें तो छोटी बॉडी होती है, अच्छे से डिसीजन ले पाती है, जल्दी डिसीजन ले पाती है, और सेक्रेसी, जैसा कि मैंने अभी बताया, सेक्रेसी मेंटेन हो पाती है. इसके बाद अगर हम देखें कि जो कैबिनेट है उसकी क्या क्या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज होती हैं, तो नंबर 1, दे हैव टू रन द कंट्री, क्योंकि प्राइम मिनिस्टर अकेले तो कर नहीं सकते. जितनी मिनिस्ट्रीज होती हैं जिनकी जो इनकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज होती हैं उनको पूरा ये रिस्पॉन्सिबल होते हैं उनके लिए. उसके बाद कैबिनेट को ही बोला जाता है एग्जीक्यूटिव अथॉरिटी. जब हम बात करते हैं एग्जीक्यूटिव फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, जहाँ पर प्रेसिडेंट भी आते हैं, प्राइम मिनिस्टर भी आते हैं, काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स भी आते हैं, एडवोकेट जनरल भी आते हैं, अटॉर्नी जनरल भी आते हैं, तो ये सुप्रीम एग्जीक्यूटिव अथॉरिटी की तरह काम करती है। और प्रेसिडेंट को एडवाइज काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर जो करती है, वो काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर नहीं होती है, वो ये होती है। तो काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर एडवाइस प्रैक्टिकल सेंस में नहीं करती है, कागजी तौर पर करती है, असली में जो रिकंसिडर करना है वो कैबिनेट ही करती है। उसके बाद हम देख सकते हैं कि जितना भी एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव मैटर है, लेजिस्लेटिव मैटर है, फाइनेंशियल मैटर है, सब पर जो सुप्रीम डिसीजन होता है वो कैबिनेट का ही होता है। फिर हम देखते हैं कि जो अपॉइंटमेंट्स होती हैं, जब हम बात करें ऑल इंडिया सर्विसेज की, जब हम बात करें जुडिशियल सर्विसेज की, जब हम बात करें अदर मिसैलेनियस सर्विसेज की, तो सारी की सारी जो अपॉइंटमेंट होती हैं वो कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर से डिसीजन से होती हैं। जिसमें हम देखते हैं पार्लियामेंट्री कमेटी फॉर द अपॉइंटमेंट, जिसके हम अभी चर्चा करने जा रहे हैं। सो दीज आर द responsibilities and the powers of the cabinet we have seen. Portfolio system we have already talked that किस मिनिस्ट्री के पास कौन कौन से पोर्टफोलियो डिवाइडेड है। पोर्टफोलियो सिस्टम वो बताता है किस मिनिस्टर को कौन सी मिनिस्ट्री मिलेगी, क्या पोर्टफोलियो मिलेगा। दिस इज मेंशन अंडर आर्टिकल 77 क्लोज 3। इसकी भी हमने कल चर्चा की थी। नाउ वी कैन सी अबाउट द कैबिनेट कमिटीज। कैबिनेट कमिटीज की अगर हम बात करें तो सबसे पहला इनके बारे में ये एक्स्ट्रा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल है, यानी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अंदर जब कैबिनेट ही मेंशन नहीं है तो कैबिनेट की कमेटी कहां से मेंशन होगी, तो इसीलिए ये भी एक्स्ट्रा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल है। और इनमें जब हम बात करते हैं तो इनमें दो तरीके की कमेटीज होती हैं। पहली होती है स्टैंडिंग कमेटी और दूसरी होती है एडहॉक कमेटी। स्टैंडिंग कमेटी परमानेंट कमेटी होती है, एडहॉक कमेटी होती है जो बेसिस पर बनाई जाती है। किसी भी मुद्दे के ऊपर कोई भी विषय है, any subject matter, if the cabinet want to decide on the basis of the scientific examination, so for that the ad hoc committee is duly constituted and with the time, with the proper tenure. If there is a matter that whether we have to include petrol in the GST bar, so they can constitute an ad hoc committee on that. And if the committee gives that advice and the GST council includes that, then the committee will become non-existing. इसके बाद जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अथॉरिटी होती है वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर होते हैं। वाई सो? बिकॉज अंडर आर्टिकल 75 इट इज मेंशन्ड दैट काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर इज हेडेड बाय द प्राइम मिनिस्टर। Therefore, the cabinet is also headed by the prime minister, and it is obvious then he has to make the committees, so he constitute the committee. अगर हम मेंबरशिप की बात करें तो मेंबरशिप इनकी वेरी करती है, कहीं पर 2 मिनिस्टर भी हो सकते हैं, कहीं पर 10 भी हो सकते हैं, कहीं पर 15 भी हो सकते हैं। इसके अंदर फिर हम बात करें कि जो कमिटीज प्राइम मिनिस्टर बनाते हैं क्या वो खुद हेड कर सकते हैं? सो यस, द कैबिनेट कमिटीज कैन बी हेडेड बाय द प्राइम मिनिस्टर, which will be talking in detail. And the main idea behind constitution of these cabinet committees is to do in-depth examination of any policy matter, of any administrative matter, of any financial and the legislative matter. So this is the crux, and these are the extra constitutional bodies. अगर हम 2019 से पहले की बात करें तो हम देखेंगे कि 2019 से पहले 15 से 16 कमेटीज भी रही हैं, लेकिन 2019 के बाद हमने देखा है कि हमारे यहाँ पर जो कमेटीज हैं उनको कहीं ना कहीं घटाया गया है। तो ये ऐसा क्रिटिसिज्म भी है कि नाउ वी आर मोर सीइंग द एग्जीक्यूटिव आर्बिट्ररीनेस, बिकॉज not even the council of minister is consulted, not even the parliamentary is consulted, and not even the cabinet committees are consulted. But if we see a silver lining in this matter, so we can understand that though the numbers have been reduced, but the work profile have been made more within these committees only. जब हम बात करते हैं कमिटीज ऑन पॉलिटिकल अफेयर्स, तो पॉलिटिकल अफेयर कमेटी जो है इसको सबसे ज्यादा पावरफुल कमेटी माना जाता है, इसीलिए यहाँ पर ये टर्म हाईलाइट हुआ, सुपर कैबिनेट. दिस इज हेडेड बाय प्राइम मिनिस्टर and this includes all the important ministers like Minister of Parliamentarian Affairs, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Defense. So all the important ministers are the part of this committee. Now what this committee does, this committee looks into two matters. Number one, the domestic issues, any kind of issue this committee can deal with, and number two is the international affairs. So these two are the important responsibilities of the cabinet committee of Parliament of Political Affairs. Number two is economic affairs. We often see in the newspapers in the articles that this XYZ person is a member of the Economic Affairs Committee of the Prime Minister. So this is that committee itself. It is Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. This not only includes the ministers, this also, all these committees can include the number of individuals who are expert and who have gained expertise in their particular field. For an example, if there is a committee on security, then the matters of security have been expertised by the NSA. So he automatically gets enrolled in this committee. If we understand about the appointment committee of the cabinet, so in this matter, the expertise is in the hands of the Cabinet Secretary of India. So automatically he becomes a part of this committee. If we understand about the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, so the Economic Affairs Secretary, Minister of Economic Affairs, Minister of Finance, he automatically is a part of this committee, even if it is not mentioned, because otherwise who will determine the charter that how these committees will work out. Then economic affairs on economic matters like on GST, on taxation, on tax buoyancy, then on fiscal budget management, everything this committee deals with. Then appointment committee of the cabinet. This committee deals with the appointments on the higher positions of the government institutions and the organizations. For an example, we have PSUs, we have financial institutions, we have judicial appointments, we have officers appointments. So
Can
everything
we
is,
can we say that when once we are talking about the cabinet committee on economic affairs or cabinet committee on security, I think there is a difference between cabinet committee and also economic advisory committee. So the economic experts, I believe they will be part of the economic advisory committee of the prime minister rather than cabinet committee on economic affairs. Because when the word cabinet comes into picture, then only cabinet members can be part of it. What do you say, Pravesh?
well, I appreciate, sir, but I'm reiterating the similar thing again, that though they are the cabinet committees, but it is not a compulsory thing that only the cabinet ministers will be part of these committees, because if some individuals have expertise in their particular field, so they can become the associate member, they can become the members of these committees. For
You
an
want to say
example,
they can become members of the cabinet committee on economic affairs?
exactly. For an example, in the cabinet committees, there are no rules and regulations. Number one, they are not constitutional bodies, they're extra constitutional. There is no written testimony that who will be the members. It is just mentioned Cabinet
But
Committee
I
on
believe,
Political Affairs.
but I believe, yes, but there can be special invitee from the members of Niti Aayog. But I again stand by the fact that cabinet committee must include only cabinet members.
Yes, sir.
And for your understanding, I am sending a small, what I should say, link on your WhatsApp group, on the General Studies Paper 2 group. Please have a look into it and then continue further.
Okay, thank you so much. And similarly, we have the Cabinet Committee on Security, Parliamentary Affairs, Accommodation, Investment, Growth, Employment, and Skill Development. So these are the 8 committees we have as far as the post 2019 phase is concerned. If we talk about which are these committees which are chaired by Prime Minister, so number one is the Political Affairs Committee chaired by Prime Minister. Then The Economic Affairs Committee is again chaired by Prime Minister, and the Appointment Committee is chaired by the Prime Minister. And then we have the committees like Security, Parliamentarian Affairs, Accommodation, Investment, Employment. So these are chaired by the Home Ministers. But again, there is no strict separation that only the Home Minister will head this, any other minister can also head these committees. So Article 75 regarding the ministers and the Prime Minister, we talked in detail. Article 77 we have done. So now we have the questions. Number one question is, state the difference between Council of Ministers and the Cabinet. So Council of Ministers is a constitutional body mentioned in the Constitution under Article 74, 75. Cabinet is an extra constitutional body, but was mentioned as a term in the Constitution under Article 352 by 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, 44 Constitutional Amendment Act, 1978. Council of Ministers is a wider body, may include 60, 70, 80 members, provided they do not cross the ceiling of 15% from the total strength of the Lok Sabha. Then Cabinet comprises only those ministers of the Council who have to have the important responsibilities by heading the ministries of the central government, which are, I think, in 25 in numbers. Then Council of Ministers has no collective action and only has de jure power. But the cabinet enjoys a de facto power in all the political, administrative, legal, financial matters, and they are representing the collective wisdom of the Council of Ministers. Even the Council of Ministers functions are determined by the cabinet, and they direct the council that you have to reconsider the matter when it is sent by the president to reconsider, and then you have to send this bill back to the president, and then he have to give the assent. So we are supreme. So we can say that cabinet is a supreme body than the Council of Ministers in the practicality, but in the theory, the Council of Ministers is having the upper stand. Then Council of Ministers responsibility is to implement the decision taken by cabinet, and cabinet responsibility is to supervise as to whether the decision given by them to the council is duly implemented or not. The council's strength is determined by the Prime Minister, and we can say that Parliament has more control when it comes to the allowances, when it comes to the salaries, when it comes to the perks and remunerations of all the ministers, which are defined, I think, in 1952. We have a famous act, Salaries and the Allowances Act of the member of the Council of Ministers. And the last, which is the most important principle as far as the Council of Ministers and the Cabinet is concerned, is that the Council of Ministers is collectively responsible for Parliament. If the Council is not able to enjoy the majority, is not able to prove the majority on the floor of the House, then it becomes mandatory for the President to disqualify the ministership and to dismiss the Council of Ministers and to announce the fresh elections as soon as possible. So this is the difference between the Council of Ministers and the Cabinet. Then, though the dictatorship of the Cabinet is a stark reality in modern times, it does not mean that the Cabinet is omnipotent. Again, this question is highlighting the importance of Council of Ministers, that though the Cabinet is supreme, we have the Council of Ministers as a constitutional body, which ensures as a checks and balance on the Cabinet's power. We have the Cabinet committees also. We have the parliamentarian committees also. We have the rules and the parliamentary proceedings also, which limits the Cabinet's omnipotence and ensure that they run in a democratic, in a transparent, and in an accountable, fashionable manner. Then the size of the Cabinet should be as big government work justifies and as big as the Prime Minister can manage as a team. How far the efficiency of a government then is inversely related to the size of cabinet. So we can say that efficiency of government do not completely depends on the size of the cabinet. It depends on the effectiveness of the cabinet ministers and particularly the Council of Ministers who head these portfolios. So if any individual wants to raise or give some comments on any question of these, so he or she may, otherwise I'll move forward. Okay, so now we have the questions of the prelims examination. Very first question is, consider the following statements. The Constitution of India classifies the ministers into 4 ranks: Cabinet, Minister of State with independent charge, Minister of State, and Deputy Minister. The total number of ministers in the Union, including the Prime Minister, shall not exceed 15% of the total number of members in the Lok Sabha. So now I would like to please give the answer of this question.
गलत है पहला वाला.
Okay.
It does not classify. The number of ministers in union government, including the prime minister, shall not exceed 15% of total members of the Lok Sabha.
This is true.
सेकंड तो ठीक होना चाहिए.
Yes, by 91st Amendment Act.
तो joint 3 आया था ना, 3 है.
Then the next question is, with reference to the union, consider the following statements. Gopalaswamy Iyengar Committee suggested that a minister and a secretary be designated solely for pursuing the subject of admin reforms and promoting it. And in 1970, the Department of Personnel was constituted on the recommendation of ARC in 1966, and this was placed under the Prime Minister's charge. So obviously, we have seen this question in the prelims examination, and the second statement becomes true. First is not true. And on the basis of logical examination, we can understand that solely for the admin reforms, it can't be done. The chief secretary in a state is appointed by the governor of that state. The chief secretary in a state has a fixed tenure. So yes, both the statements are false. Chief secretary in a state is appointed by the governor of the state. It is not. It is appointed by the chief minister, and chief minister in a state has a fixed tenure. No, it does not have a fixed tenure. And this is what the ARC, second ARC, suggests, that the chief secretary should have a fixed tenure of 2 years, along with the DGP, which is suggested by the Prakash Singh Committee report. The president shall make rules for more convenient transaction of the business of the government of India and for the allocation among ministers of the said business. True. All executive actions of the government shall be expressed to be taken in the name of Prime Minister. So false, it is president only. Which of the following functions of the cabinet secretariat?
Tara?
Preparation of agenda for cabinet, secretariat assistant to committee, allocation of resources to the ministries. So Ashik, you please tell me that why the third option is false.
Allocation of financial resources to ministry, it is provided by the finance ministry. कि वो कैबिनेट सेक्रेटरी क्यों करेगा?
बजट के थ्रू.
वो सिर्फ एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव मशीनरी में काम करता है.
It is through budget.
बजट, हाँ. डिपार्टमेंट.
Then the Council of Ministers in the centre shall be collectively responsible to the Parliament. True. Union ministers shall hold the office during the pleasure of the President of India. It is true. The Prime Minister shall communicate to the President about the proposal for legislation. So all the statements are correct. The Union Cabinet Secretary, with reference to Union, consider the Constitution of India provides that all the cabinet ministers shall be compulsorily the sitting members of Lok Sabha only. False. Union Cabinet Secretariat operates under the direction of Ministry of Personal Affairs. No, I think it is an independent office, Cabinet Secretary of India. And it works under the Prime Minister office, not the Parliamentary Affairs. Which one of the following constitutional amendments states that the total number of members, including the PM and the Council, not exceed 15% of the Lok Sabha? It is 91st and year 2003. Who among the following have been the Union Finance Minister of India? So VP Singh, Venkatraman, Chavan, and Pranab Mukherjee. So Pranab Mukherjee could be the answer. One to all. VP Singh, Venkatraman, Chavan. Consider the following.
वेंकटरमन
क्या चीज?
प्रणब मुखर्जी भी थे और वेंकटरमन भी थे।
नहीं, इनमें सभी दिया हुआ है.
हाँ सभी थे।
YV Chavan. Consider the following functionaries and order of precedence: Chief Justice, Union Cabinet Ministers, Election Commissioner, Cabinet Secretary. So I think 4, 3, 2, and 1. This could be the order of precedence. Sorry. देखना ही पड़ेगा. Okay, so now in brief, we are taking the Prime Minister. And so Prime Minister is the de facto ruler of India. We have talked. He is having the supreme power over the administrative agencies,
De
legislative
facto
matters.
ruler of India, मतलब गवर्नमेंट हो
De facto
जाएंगे ना।
ruler, yes, we can see. If in practical sense we have to say that is a de facto ruler of India. And he heads the Council of Ministers. He is the main channel between the president and the parliament on the legislative matters, on the administrative matter, on the finance matter, and on any other matter on which the president say him to do so. इसके बाद हमने प्राइम मिनिस्टर के बारे में कल भी बात की थी कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर is requisite of the parliament. He can be a normal person, but he has to prove his membership in the house within the 6 months. And चाहे वो बाई इलेक्शन से आए, चाहे वो नॉमिनेट होकर आए, और किसी भी हाउस से वो आ सकते हैं. इट इज नॉट मैंडेटरी दैट कि वो लोकसभा से आए. राज्यसभा के भी अगर एमपी है तो वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर बन सकते हैं, बट he has to prove his majority on the floor of the house of the Lok Sabha as the leader of the Council of Ministers. Then duties of the Prime Minister, we talked yesterday that he has to provide every detail of admin affairs, legislative affairs to the president when it is told to do so. And when the president says to reconsider the matter, then he will say to the Prime Minister that you please take this matter for the reconsideration of the council and then get back to me, and then I will give the assent to the particular matter of administrative and the legislative part. Like ministers, PM also holds the office of Prime Minister on the pleasure of the president. This does not mean that president can anytime remove the Prime Minister. This simply means that pleasure of president is based on the Council of Ministers majority, which is decided on the floor of the House of the Lok Sabha. If it is not so, then he can remove the Prime Minister along with his council, and he can also dissolve the Lok Sabha. इसके बाद हम देखते हैं कि ये काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर को हेड करते हैं, चैनल होते हैं कम्युनिकेशन का, लीडर होते हैं अपने हाउस में. जब हम बात करते हैं लीडर ऑफ द हाउस, प्राइम मिनिस्टर को बोला जाता है, बट दिस इज नॉट अ मैंडेटरी थिंग दैट he is only the leader of the house in the house of the parliament. He can appoint any other person on his behalf to become the leader of the house belonging from his political party who is having the majority in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha also. ये एक्स ऑफिशियो चेयरमैन होते हैं नीति आयोग के, which is an executive body and the policy making body. Then the last thing we have in this is a deputy prime minister. तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं लिखा हुआ है about deputy prime minister. It is only the prime minister. But we have the subsequent act in the later part which defines that yes, along with the council of minister, the deputy minister can also be considered as a proper minister. और ये कौन से एक्ट में है? Again, जो अभी हमने देखा सैलरीज एंड द अलाउंसेज एक्ट ऑफ 1952, यहीं पर डिफाइन हुआ है पहली बार कि डेप्यूटी मिनिस्टर प्राइम मिनिस्टर कौन होगा, कैसे उसका रोल होगा, क्या उसकी सैलरीज होंगी, क्या क्या उसकी रोल्स एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज होंगी। तो 1952 के एक्ट के बारे में यहाँ पे लिखा भी हुआ है। तो इसी एक्ट के थ्रू जो डिप्टी प्राइम मिनिस्टर है उसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज और उसकी जो पोजीशन है वो सामने आई। एंड सिंस इंडिपेंडेंस देयर हैव बीन 7 डेप्यूटी प्राइम मिनिस्टर। द वेरी फर्स्ट इज वल्लभ भाई पटेल, देन मोरारजी देसाई, चरण सिंह, जगजीवन राम, यशवंत राव छावन, देवीलाल and Lal Krishna Advani. So this is how our Council of Minister, Prime Minister and the Cabinet Ministries chapter is duly ended. Do you justify the Prime Minister's entry into Parliament through Rajya Sabha? So Mansi, what is your comment on this?
I would say इसमें पूछा है do you justify? So as per the constitutional provision, I would say it is justified because even constitution is not specifying the prime minister, he or she should only be elected or only be an MP from Lok Sabha. And then I would cite certain examples like Dr. Manmohan Singh, who's the former Prime Minister of India. So even he was from Rajya Sabha.
And apart from that, Manmohan Singh, any other you can name?
No.
Like Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi. So Oshik, what is your view? How you will justify this question?
I stand with Mansis on that. If constitution is not given any direction regarding which is better suited for the prime minister, entry from the Lok Sabha or the Raj Sabha, so it can be justified. However, we can say that there are some issue with regarding to the Raj Sabha because people have not voted for the MP in Raj Sabha. Raj Sabha MP is elected from the state legislature. हर एक का डिफरेंट होता है तो सो लेकिन विथ रिगार्डिंग टू द लोक सभा no confidence motion is passed in the Lok Sabha. So I think leader of the government, leader of the party should make a stand that they should be elected by the people themselves. तो एंट्री फ्रॉम द लोक सभा ज्यादा सुटेबल होना चाहिए लेकिन however constitution does not take any stand regarding that. तो I agree with मानसी stand.
Okay.
थोड़ा इशू हो सकता है लेकिन
So we can
ऐसा
say
कुछ
that
decision
it is justified. It is justified by the Constitution when it says that any individual who wants to become the Prime Minister can become Prime Minister provided he fulfills his membership in either house of the Parliament, whether it is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So Constitution has not barred Prime Minister from coming from either house. It has opened from both the houses, and I will rectify your this line that he is coming from Rajya Sabha, so it is not directly. So we can say that Rajya Sabha ये वाला फैक्टर नहीं होगा, इसमें हम बोल सकते हैं कि the concerns left out is that if an individual is nominated by the president and if it comes by the by-elections, then it becomes an issue that he is not representing the collective wisdom of the people. He is not a directly representative. But we can say that the even this concern is meted out by the Constitution when it says that though he is coming from either house, he has to become the leader of the house of the Lok Sabha and he has to prove his majority as the leader of the Council of Ministers on the floor of the Lok Sabha. So this is how the Constitution has provided enough balancing measures to justify that whether Prime Minister comes from this house or that house, he represents the whole Parliament and becomes the active channel of communication between the President of India, who is representing the country as a republic, and the Parliament, who is representing the people of India. So these are some questions. The executive power of union is vested in the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister is ex officio chairman of Civil Services Board. So I think both are false. Yes, executive power vested in President of India, and Civil Services Board के जो ex officio chairman होते हैं वो I think Prime Minister नहीं होते, Cabinet Secretary होते हैं Chairman of Civil Services Board. President भी नहीं होते, Cabinet Secretary would be the right answer. Consider the following statements. Council of Ministers is central collectively responsible. Union Minister hold office during the pleasure of President. PM communicate to President about the proposal for legislation. Council of Ministers in the center shall be collectively responsible. Okay, so this is also false, we can say. It is the cabinet which is collectively responsible to the parliament. Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. So this is how it becomes false. And the PM of India at the time of her appointment need not necessarily be a member of one of the house, but must become a member of one of the house. Need not necessarily be a member of one of the house, but must become a member of Lok Sabha within 6 months. Must be a member of one of the house, must be a member of the Lok Sabha. So A is the answer. जहाँ पर बोला हुआ है need not necessarily be member of one of the houses, but must become a member of one of the houses. यानी किसी भी हाउस के मेंबर नहीं है तो भी चल सकता है, लेकिन 6 महीने में किसी एक हाउस के मेंबर तो बन जाए. Jawaharlal Nehru was in his 4th term as the PM of India at time of his death. Jawaharlal Nehru represented Rai Bareli as member of parliament, and the first known Congress Prime Minister of India assumed the office in the year 1977. So I think first is false and 2 and 3 could be correct. Okay, so 1 and 3 is correct. Rai Bareli se wo nahi the. Which of the following statement is correct? The PM of India is free to choose his minister only from among those who are member of either house. False. Can choose his cabinet colleagues after due counseling by the president in this regard. False. Has full discretion in the choice of person who are to serve as a minister and has only limited power in the choice. So C is the answer. Okay, so thank you so much, and we have completed the Council of Minister chapter, the Prime Minister chapter, and the Cabinet committees. So now in the next class and the next session, we are going to deal with some new innovative things. So stay tuned with Ansarkari and keep watching. Thank you so much.